call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Reverend Robert Bostic from the Alpha Omega Hospice. Thank you very much for coming out today.
Father, again today you have blessed us with a beautiful day, and I pray that indeed on behalf of this court, on behalf of all of those that are in this room and all of those who work for this county, that indeed today be a good day. That indeed, Father, you be with this court and their families, and might their decisions today be those that are beneficial to all of us. And we thank you again for the rapid growth of our area. In Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, Reverend.
Members of the court, we have two announcements relating to the agenda. They're both under the administrator's office. First one is item 8A5. This is a submission of a grant to DOJ. We're going to ask that we hold that particular item for today. Also, members of the court, under the administrator's section, item 8A15, which is the out-of-state travel requests. There are some minor corrections that we made compared to the one that we had published in the book. These were just correcting the dates on some of that travel. So we have a revised court communication as it relates to item 15. Also, I'd like to remind the court that next Tuesday we are going to have a work session immediately after a closed session. And this work session will deal with employee health benefits for next year. So so please mark that on your calendar. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of March the 12th.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion, Commissioner Fickus.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We have one proclamation, and that proclamation, I'll just move its approval for Poison Prevention Week. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mays.
Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Last year, the City of Kennedale brought forth a proposal to establish a tax increment financing district in a 544-acre area along New Hope Road and Bloxham Road. This TIF district would provide for funding that would provide construction for New Hope Road and Bloxham Road improvements, water, sewer, drainage improvements, and streetscape and pedestrian access improvements to encourage the private development and the redevelopment of existing racetracks that are located there in Kennedale now. The dirt tracks and their stock car or hot rod tracks that are located. There's, I believe, 2 or 3 that are located there right now. Since that time, with the county representative present, the TIF board has met. They've approved the project financing plan for the TIF, and the city council has also approved those project and financing plans. So now we are asking for you to consider approval of the resolution and the agreements for the TIF zone. The City of Kennedale is participating with 100% of its increment in the zone. They have requested the county's participation at 75% of their incremental tax revenue generated. And because of the level of growth that's anticipated being much smaller along that area, they have requested that both the hospital district and the college district also participate at a 50% level. The TIF funds within the zone will pay for approximately $12.7 million in infrastructure improvements. Approximately $9.07 million will come from Kennedale itself with their tax increment, and approximately $2.48 million will come from the county, $1.43 from the hospital district, and approximately $1.8 million from the Tarrant County College District. The agreements that you have before you provide for the county for funding of 75% into the zone for the 25-year period, or until a maximum cumulative contribution of $2,481,849 has been reached by the county, or similarly for the hospital district at 50% until a cumulative contribution of $1,427,690 has been reached over the period. And then the agreement will stop once that max contribution has been reached. So today we're asking that you approve the attached resolution and the participation agreements for both Tarrant County and Tarrant County Hospital District participation in the City of Kennedale Tax Increment Financing Reinvestment Zone Number 1, the New Hope Road TIF. Also, in case you have any questions, I want to note that Bob Hart, the city manager, John Clark, the mayor of Kennedale, and Brian Johnson, the mayor pro tem, are all here today also.
Mr. Mayor, would you like to speak on behalf of this project?
We believe it's a worthy project, and you have other information.
With that, I move for approval.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Commissioner Fickus?
Lisa G., what's the tax rate for Kennedale?
For the city?
72 and a quarter? Yes. Okay.
How many jobs are we talking about being created by this venture?
I don't know, and I could have Bob come forward. The economic impact in terms of jobs wasn't identified so much in the plan because it's going to be a lot more retail along the New Hope Road. They're hoping for construction. That Bloxham Road area is an industrial park area. There are some industrial uses already there, and they're hoping to increase that and make it better with the roads because the roads are really bad. But a lot of that area for redevelopment where the racetracks are going to be housing, new housing.
There's Bob, would you mind come up and share your knowledge about what is out there right now and what it can be in the future with this?
The area along New Hope Road has 3 racetracks, a drag strip, and 2 circle tracks. There are some dilapidated old structures in that area. The plan would be to remove the racetracks and then convert that to housing, to single-family housing. And it's the single-family housing creation that we believe will create the retail along Kennedale Parkway and in other areas of the community.
The only area of open land potentially for development in the southeast portion of Tarrant County is toward the city of Kennedale. And right now, the area is rather abandoned. We have a racetrack and so forth, but the economic viability and the future for that area is very dark if we don't do something about it. So with this development, we hope, and which we pretty sure that it's going to happen, is we will bring up the population in that area, and then we will have developed some nice affordable housing, and which in turn will create job opportunities as well as other economic opportunities in the future. Because right now, it's not going anywhere. It's heading downhill, essentially.
Well, I feel a lot better about it now that you explained the misconception I had from listening to Ms. McMillan. I thought that you said we were redeveloping the racetracks.
No. We're trying to trying to increase the population, and it's that population increase that will help us long-term to be a sustainable community.
In fact, the racetrack owners agreed to basically close down their racetracks and basically give up the land for value, of course, and use it for development.
Is there a site map or a map of the zone?
If you go through the project plan, that's, I'm sorry.
Project plan? I don't have project.
It's in the backup. Page 18.
If you go to the last,
Under the first item?
no, the last one.
The last item.
The one that said approve, the very last item. There you go.
And then go to page 17 of 48.
And as you know, Commissioner Brooks, the city of Kennedale has already been working tirelessly on redevelopment from Interstate 20 all the way down, and have already worked on the businesses that were already located there at the entrance to the city.
Oh, I do appreciate you taking care of that. I think,
Did you find it?
yes. Yes.
Do you have another question
Yeah,
while he's looking at that?
Is the land currently in the hands of a developer or a entity that's capable of doing this kind of development?
No, sir. We are working on development agreements with the tracks, and the schedule we're looking at doing is to close the tracks at the end of the racing season in 2015. One of the drag strip has the largest amount of land. It's about 100 acres. They are currently interviewing planners and also talking to developers to do this. Part of the reason for coming here was actually we met with a series of developers over the last several years, and because of the offsite improvements, they all indicated to us that with absent a TIF or some way to do the offsite improvements, they would not be interested in proceeding with the project.
Now, the biggest part of these dollars are going toward the road, is that correct?
Yes, sir. The road and probably 75 or 80% of it's going to the road, and then the balance then would be going for a sewer interceptor of extension.
I was going to ask you about sewer and water.
Yes, we have a water line in the area that we put in the area about 2 years ago. The council will be considering a master plan update for the water and wastewater system with the focus on this area. That's on the April agenda. And we think, and by working with the tracks, we think it'll take about 3 years for both of us to get everything in place to be able to proceed.
And the sewer, is that City of Kennedale sewer, or is that TRA? Or?
It's we provide the collection system, and then TRA does the treatment.
Okay. Thanks.
Lisa, on that map, there is a piece of land, I think it's on Bloomberg or Bloom Park Road. It's kind of separated from the entire development.
Oh, the Bloxham Park Road, and that's separated, so it's a non-contiguous TIF. That is to get water, wastewater, and street improvements in that area. and providing an industrial park or a light industrial park, if you will, and that's in anticipation of cleanup that's planned along Village Creek. We have a number of properties that are located within the floodplain and in some cases the floodway, and then that would give them a place in which to relocate.
Does it have to be contiguous by law?
No.
I've never heard of a non-contiguous TIF.
The legislature changed the requirements for that at the last 2 years ago, and so that's why it was submitted this way.
Typically in the past, what's been done just to keep it contiguous is they went
Is to follow the road,
snaked along
yes.
roadways, but it doesn't have to do that anymore.
Any other questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Members of the Court, a week ago to item number 2, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve the issuance of Series 2013 hospital revenue bonds in one or more series by the Tarrant County Cultural Education Facilities Finance Corp. For the Baylor Healthcare System in an amount not to exceed $340 million. As it relates to that $340 million, there will be expenditures as it relates to Baylor Medical Center in Grapevine. There will be refinancing of debt that as it relates to Baylor, and that refinancing includes the Grapevine facility, the All Saints facility, and other elements of Baylor within Tarrant County. They have sent us a letter that has provided information regarding the Tarrant County hub policy, and they have also, there are no known restrictions or limitations of current or future use on that facility for governmental functions.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, we can go to item number 3. We're requesting that the Court approve resolution as it relates to the nomination of the Honorable James Healy, who is a County Commissioner of DuPage County, Illinois, to the U.S. Department of Transportation's National Freight Advisory Committee.
Move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Jim had called me last week and asked if we would do this. He, Secretary of Transportation, would like to put a local government person on this committee, and Jim is certainly trying to do that and be that person. So
He had talked with me about it at the Ledge Conference as well.
He's the chair of our National Association of Counties Transportation Steering Committee, so it's a very logical choice. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Finally, members of the Court, on item number 4, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court consider and approve an exception to the travel policy as it relates to within-region travel for Constable's Office Precinct 2.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You know, we keep, and maybe the court just wants to keep bringing up this one on, I mean, when we get to the other side of Dallas, I'd almost like to say that that's not something that we need because anybody that's having to drive to the other side of Dallas.
Anybody having to drive to Dallas?
Dallas.
Is a real issue.
I
agree with you.
I mean, Rockwell seems to be a place where a lot of these things are occurring, and
How about if we do this? Whenever we have something like that in the eastern region of the COG, but we simply put that on consent.
that would be I think that'd be great.
Right.
Is that all right with everybody? Okay.
Absolutely.
Rockwell is a major hub for JP and
Yeah.
So is Granby.
they found a little niche over there, I guess. With
They've got a nice Hilton there on the shore of the lake.
On the lake. We've been there. In fact, CUC was there.
Right.
I think the very first weekend that they opened. Let me see here. We're going to wait till after. It's Glenn. Come on down.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 3 items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2, we're asking the court to approve amendment number 1 to the Administrative Services Agreement between United Healthcare Services and Tarrant County. If approved, this amendment will be effective January 1st. It's been approved by PEBC Legal Counsel, and we're estimating the fiscal impact for FY13 to be approximately $40,878.
Move for approval of the amendment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our third and final item, we're asking the court to approve amendment number 10 to the Senior Supplement Plan Group Health Insurance Policy, and amendment number 7 to the Medicare Advantage Plan Group Health Services Agreement with Pacificare. Again, these amendments are effective 1/1/13. The amendments outline our 2013 rates for our senior plans. We're estimating our fiscal impact for 2013 to be approximately $2.8 million.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham.
Good morning. We have one item for your consideration this morning. That is a bid award recommendation for bid 2013-046. It's our annual contract for carpet, tile, and miscellaneous flooring. Recommendation would be to award on a per enterprise basis, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors as shown in your court communique. We did receive a bid from a company called Mobile Enterprise that did not sign their addendum, which was a change in specifications, and they should be rejected.
Move approval.
I'm not approving it because Arkansas beats Kentucky, so I'm not talking to you.
You're welcome.
Finally, we got into a sport.
Second. Any discussion? You know, every week we see at least 1 or 2 or 3 of these where we're kicking somebody out because they didn't sign the bid. And I guess my question is if they are the low bidder, what is the problem with going back to them and asking them to sign the bid?
It's the law.
Typically, it's binding if they sign it, and it's not binding if they don't.
That's a great answer. So go back and ask them to sign it, and they're still the low bidder, and we can accept it, and it's still the low bid, and now it's binding.
And then we get into but I'd like to change something.
No, I didn't say they had the opportunity to change anything.
If I could finish, though, please.
Okay.
Other bidders will say, well, I'd like to change something else in my bid. Now, it's possible that we could change
now, wait a minute. You made the statement there.
No, let me.
No, wait a minute, Ray. You made the statement that they said they wanted to change something, and now somebody else said they wanted to change something.
Yes. That you could end up, what you would have to do what you suggest, is you'd have to change the way the bid specifications currently read to say that you may sign the bid later. Because as it stands right now, the position we've always taken is you can't change anything once it's been submitted. And signing it would be a change, albeit a very small change, but it would be a change. So we could change the bid specs to do that.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with you that that's a change. I guess maybe we could say you just submit it and we don't require, if we don't have a requirement, that they sign it.
I think the more valid point is whether or not you've got a committed contract, not a change. I mean, if you submit something that's not signed and it's not binding, then you're just testing the waters. You can say, oops, I didn't mean that. And
if they say, whoops, I didn't mean that, then they don't get the bid.
We've had a few of those, too, where people have signed it and then said, that they had some sort of mistake and they wanted to back out.
And as I recall, what we do in those situations is we say, fine, you can recall, but you're not going to get to bid with us anymore for at least some period of time. I guess I'm just having a hard time understanding. We got a low bid. Somebody doesn't sign it. We go to them and say, you can sign this. You got the low bid. If you don't, or if you want to change it, then we're going to do it just like we've done everything else. But if our goal here is to get the low bid, I'm having a hard time understanding why they didn't sign the bid as being a problem.
Jack, how much emphasis do you put on people signing the
We
bid?
honestly talk about this in our office almost every day. We've done everything but shoot a video and show it at a pre-bid conference. It's in bold letters. It's mentioned several times in the bid document. It's very frustrating. I hate to bring the news up here. I really hate to tell you. But I'm going to tell you, I need to tell you what we've recommended and done. But it's very frustrating to us.
Scott?
Yes, sir.
Do you take bids through the internet?
Yes, we do.
Do they type their name, but you don't have a signature?
No, there's a process. The legislature has been about, 4 years ago, I think that's right, allowed electronic bid submission. We have an entirely different process where we...
So if it comes in on the internet, I guess you can scan it and send it?
Sure.
I'm assuming everybody that bids everything has a scanner?
There is a signature, yes, sir, of some sort.
A signature of some sort. Is it a signature or is it just the name typed?
What if they just type their name? You throw that bid out?
We've not had that come up.
So that space is left blank?
No.
Yes or no? I'm confused. The space where you sign the name is blank? Or is there a name type there or a name type below? Or
If you fill out the bid document, then you sign it, then you scan it and send it with the signature that's on the bid document.
If you're doing it all on the computer, you've got to download it, correct?
Yes.
Hard copy?
Sign
it, scan it back, and send it, versus just
Or you
fill
can
out your
insert
bid,
an
push
electronic
send,
signature.
and it goes back to you. I think that's what you're getting. People just, are most of the bids that are unsigned?
Most aren't.
Are all your bids that come in, almost all of them through email?
No, believe it or not.
Do you have the problem on the mailed-in bids, the FedEx, where you physically have the bid that came through the door, other than email? Do you have a problem on those not being signed?
We've not had.
Or is it an email issue primarily?
No, the bids that have been the problems are pretty much the bids that are turned in and not sent electronically.
Not sent electronically?
Yes, exactly. But we're at our wits' end to make. Normally, that's the first thing that's mentioned in a pre-bid conference when we have.
Well, I hear that, Jack, but every
I'm not asking for
time
that.
we get it. So I hear what you're saying, but at least one bid a week I see on here it's kicked out because someone didn't sign. Now, I don't know whether it's the low bid or whether it's just a bid or what. But all I'm saying is
not always. It's not always.
All I'm saying is that if it's the low bid, if they're willing to sign it, make absolutely no changes. They can make absolutely no changes to any of the things that they're bidding or anything else. I don't understand why that should not be accepted. And if they refuse to do it at that point in time, then I'd say we treat them just like we treat anybody who's turned it in and signed it and then refused it.
I think you'll see a long line of protesters at Commissioner's Court from people that followed the process and followed our requirements and said,
I guess what I'm saying is on the requirements, that doesn't necessarily have to be the requirement. It could be asked, it could be required. I don't know, but all I'm just saying, though, is they've got an option.
Is a potential solution on this when I think that listening to what Ray had to say is that currently on our bid specifications and our bid documents, we state you have to sign the document. I would believe that if the Commissioner's Court directs the purchasing agent on future bid documents to add language that will allow purchasing to go back and get a signature if it's not on that bid, then I think that might answer your question.
I would be unalterably opposed to that.
We had a situation yesterday on a bid that we were working on the recommendation to bring to Commissioner's Court, where it was for a service contract for facilities, where we had a list of about 35 buildings, and we asked that we receive a bid on every building. The vendor put down prices for all but one building, and we were going to disallow his bid. We need service for all the buildings. It was an all or none contract, so we could be concise with the information that we send out to facilities management for their building managers. And the guy called and he said, I did not bid on that one. I no bid it, which is what he did put in the bid document. And he said, we should be awarded that particular contract. We just won't charge you anything. That's not what we asked for.
That doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about.
Well,
it doesn't have a thing to do with
he
this.
wants-
That would have
it's-
been a
let's make-
change in the bid. I'm talking about the only thing that's going to happen is that they were evaluated, they were the low bid. Are you going to come in and sign this or not?
We are in the course of doing business through the purchasing department with various vendors. We are asking them to follow our specifications in providing us with certain services. Signing the bid is a threshold issue. If they can't be careful enough to sign the bid, how can we be sure that they're going to deliver us that they're going to take care in delivering us what we contracted for?
Jack, what do these people say when you call them? Or do you call them? Or they call you and say, how did we come out on the bid?
they're notified.
What do they, do they go, ooh, I forgot? Is it the same people every time that are doing this?
No, it's not the same people every time. I think it's a generational thing, quite honestly.
And so you're telling me that, again, going back a little bit to what Commissioner Fickus, that every electronic bid has a scanned-in signature.
We've not had problems with any of them I
know it. That's not what I asked. On a scanned-in bid or on a computer electronically sent here, we have something. We have a signature. We don't have just the name, and that's submitted. We have a signature. Somebody signed something, and that's considered a signature. We don't accept as a signature just a typed name.
I'd like to verify that to be sure that I'm telling you the truth.
Let me offer a suggestion. It is obvious that several members of the court have a concern regarding this policy and the implementation of it. So why don't you go back and do some research and find out what the pattern is and talk to several vendors to see why they don't sign the document and so forth, and then come back to us and present some data that we can really make. This is a policy decision here that we are talking about, and I see both sides of the arguments are valid. So,
we're trying to get the low bids. That's the reason we're going after this. I don't know how many of these that are not signing were actually the low bid. Maybe it's none. Maybe we don't have a problem.
Well, I know. I have been through this process, not with Turner County, but with other people, where we submitted bids, and it's a lot of work to put together one of these jobs. Some employee at some company has spent typically, if not hours, it could be days, working up a bid on a particular project. A lot of money invested in bidding that, one company's going to get it and 10 are not. But there's got to be some rhyme or reason why. And you mentioned generational. issues.
I think-
Maybe the old guys do it, and the younger ones, it's no big deal. Maybe they think their email that they sent it to you with is their signature. I don't know. Maybe it is.
We've got the authority from the hospital district. What do they do in the hospital district if they get one with no signature? Can we ask Robert that?
I'm delighted to be included in this conversation.
I bet you are, Robert.
You know, I honestly don't know. I think we're going to follow the same policy by which there are certain requirements, and all those requirements have to be met. And signature is probably one of them. I'd want to go back, but I think we follow the same procedure, and that there are guidelines. You meet the guidelines. If not, your bid is not accepted. Is my understanding. But I'll check and make sure.
I'd be curious to know whether you even have that problem. Or is that just something
Well,
that
I will
we...
tell you that the problem hasn't come to my office as being a significant concern that we've had to take bids out because people haven't signed them. It just hasn't percolated up as a problem. It's not, I'm not suggesting it's not, but it hasn't risen to the occasion of people coming into my office. And we've had concerns on bids because people don't get them, but it isn't because of lack of signature. So I'd go back and review our policies, but it hasn't been an issue like.
And it actually appears in this particular bid that they may have signed the bid,
And
they
I-
just didn't sign the addendum.
I would be
So how
willing.
many different places do they have to sign, and so they missed one of the signatures? And again, I don't know whether this was the low bid or not.
Was it, Jack?
No.
It wasn't.
So in this situation, there would have been no reason to go back to them.
That's correct.
And so again, it's one of those things where they can't change anything. They can sign it, which may fulfill the obligation, the contractual obligation, but they can't change anything else. I'm not suggesting that they would have the ability to make any additions, deletions, anything, any other changes other than, okay, you got the low bid, but our attorneys tell us that until you sign it, it's not contractual. And so if we're going to make it contractual based upon being the low bid, then you got to sign the thing. So I would like to go back and just get an idea of how much, you know, of maybe the last, since the beginning of the year, we've kicked out a lot of bids for nobody signing them.
Or addendums.
Or anything.
Yeah. I would be interested to know if those people who fail to sign their documents, are they first-time bidders with Tarrant County? Can you?
Yes.
Okay.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Judge, we need a vote.
We do have.
Motion passes unanimously and eventually. Although I really thought we had already voted on it before. Okay. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
Yes, sir. Actually, I've got two interlocal agreements. I move approval of 8N1A through D.
Second.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Appointments. There being none, then we have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two items to bring to you this morning. The first is the monthly update from the hospital district. Mr. Hurley is here to address the court at this time.
Robert, thanks for allowing me to use your expertise up here this
Well,
morning.
I'm pretty
Thank you
sure
for enlightening us somewhat on what happened.
I'm happy to do that. I feel that y'all are enlightened, and should there be any questions that y'all have in my report that I can't answer, would you please ask Jack? I would appreciate that very much. Help me out up here.
He's not even paying attention.
No, and that's probably wise. A couple things. I think if you want a smart hospital district and you want a hospital district that's best serving patients, and taxpayers in this community, you have to ask yourself the question, what is that hospital going to look like in a year, 2 and 3 years down the line, particularly in the midst of a constantly changing healthcare environment. And we recently had a retreat that was hugely helpful for us. And one of the things that we did as management, along with our board members, is we talked about those areas that JPS should not only continue to excel in, but what we should be offering to taxpayers to make it better for patients and use of money. And 3 areas that we're going to focus on in the future that I think is quite wise for JPS. We've talked a lot in this community, and there is a huge amount of support and effort to combat infant mortality. We all are frustrated and concerned with where our infant mortality numbers are, and I think your public hospital should always step up to the plate to the greatest degree that it possibly can in infant mortality. We have good people like Dr. Josephine Fowler and others, and Celie Massengill and others in our area that are looking at that very issue. But our emphasis from a board standpoint and management standpoint is to figure out the best things that we can do. And what we know at JPS is that we offer prenatal care, and that prenatal care has significant beneficial outcomes to the birth of that child. It's just getting everybody into a prenatal care program. And whether that's 7 visits in prenatal care, those 7 visits are critical. Not 5, not 4, not 0, but 7 or 8 or whatever the number is. So a much better degree of concern for prenatal care, and then what we do at delivery, and trying to make sure that we do that. So I think if we look at an emphasis in the next years of JPS's role in infant mortality in this community and continuing to provide 6,300 healthy births to this community, that's going to be beneficial. The second area that we looked
Robert,
at... Yes.
Excuse me just a second. On the issue of the infant mortality, I believe that the national statistics now reflect that certainly prenatal care is important in ensuring successful birth outcomes. But just as important, if not more, is maternal health pre-pregnancy.
Yes.
So any robust infant mortality program is going to have to consider maternal health.
I think you're exactly right. It's maternal health, and we do have some individuals that put themselves at risk for a variety of things they shouldn't be putting themselves at risk for: intake of alcohol, smoking of cigarettes, improper diet, those type things. The other thing that I want to mention on infant mortality is we have a lot of community support in various agencies and working. JPS should be working hand in hand and making sure that we're very coordinated with dealing with infant mortality issues. But it will be a mainstay for your public hospital in the years to come, even greater than what it's been. The second area that we feel is important to move into is JPS's role in mental health in the community, mental and behavioral health. You know, with the 60,000 plus children that we see in our school-based health centers, a lot of the ultimate time they come to us is previously been defined by a mental or behavioral issue. When you look at anorexia and you look at some of the other issues that they have, if we can help upstream on behavioral and psychiatric issues, we may be able to help downstream with greater care. JPS is obviously the place that so many people go to seek help because we are the emergency psychiatric center for Tarrant County. Psychiatric care does not relegate itself to any wallet issues. Psychiatric services and the need for having strong psychiatric services regarding everybody in this community is a vital role for all of us to play. JPS's role in that is one that's large now, but we want to make that role even larger in the future, and that's one of our key mainstays of what we want to do to benefit this community. The third aspect that we want to look at for that three-legged stool of support for this community is geriatrics care. We recently had a meeting with Commissioner Fickus, and we talked about some of the programs, particularly in the Northeast. Commissioner Johnson, you have a large area of projected growth in the need for geriatrics care. All of your precincts have them. There's no question about it. Some are larger than others. And that's not to say we would segment it to one area. We want a broad-scale approach throughout Tarrant County for geriatrics care. those of you who have had relatives and loved ones that have sought care, and some providers feel that maybe that Medicare patient reimbursement is not as high, that's a population that we should always be there for. The one thing also that we're finding out in reports is the familiarity with making sure that those patients who are not only fragile both physically but mentally know that there's always that entrance to enter. There's always that parking lot. You're always going to be greeted by these people, are hugely helpful in a confusing world of healthcare, trying to meander through different buildings and going to different spots and different places. That just lends for folks not getting the care they need. So I think what you're going to see out of JPS is a focus in continuance with what we already do, but on those three areas to enhance even greater than what we have. And if you looked at infant mortality, if you looked at the mental and psychiatric services for our entire community and geriatrics care over a blanket of Tarrant County, I think we'd be doing even greater services for taxpayers and for the patients that come in and potentially future come into JPS. So that was a very viable discussion. I wanted to at least introduce those interests to you as to where JPS will begin to not only put greater emphasis along with its other programs, but really looking at some of our programs that we could certainly enhance. Geriatrics being one that we do some care in, but we could do a whole lot more. And I will keep you up to date. Your appointees to our board will keep you up to date. We'll give you briefings on those. We'll tell you just exactly what we're doing in that regard. The other thing that I wanted to communicate to you is the ever-changing world when the legislature is in. And I say that with all due respect. Just Mondays and Tuesdays look different than Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays when you're dealing with the legislature. And one of the things that appears to be happening in the legislature, and I don't necessarily want to get into the weeds with you all, but there are basically three pools of money now that we help fund through intergovernmental transfer. There is the disproportionate share dollars, which has traditionally always been there. And then there's the 1115 waiver money. I have communicated to y'all before that I'm a huge supporter of the 1115 waiver and its funding sources. Commissioner Brooks and others have played a role in Washington on that. We've got some great leaders. The judge and all of you have been briefed and understand it. The judge is well aware of the circumstances, as you are. The 1115 waiver gives us greater opportunities to transform healthcare in the United States better and greater than anything I've ever seen. The reason being is the federal government reimburses you for outcomes instead of just providing money. If you just provide money, you're going to continuously do things that aren't beneficial to the system, such as readmits and continuously having people readmitted. And you're still not solving the problem, you're just readmitting them to the hospital. Trying to deal with issues that are challenging, looking at what you do with outcomes on diabetes and obesity and things we talk about all the time, and putting greater emphasis in preventative care instead of an emergency room care setting. That's what the 1115 waiver does, and it rewards you when you hit your marks. Disproportionate share dollars is an older form of federal money that comes in that says, you get this dollar amount. Here you go. That program is being phased out by the federal government, but there still are some that want to cling on to that old form of disproportionate share dollars, and there are some pieces of legislation that says you have to fund that pool of money before you fund the 1115 waiver. I think that's a very poor approach, and I think that legislators who advocate that are potentially confused on the issue or are misunderstanding of the issue, because just in the terms of what we receive, the return on the dollar and what we put up is far greater with the 1115 monies. For every situation, we put up 82 cents and we get $1 back for dish. We put up 47 cents in the waiver and we get $1 back. So from a taxpayer standpoint, it's much wiser to deal with not only the outcome-based funding measure, but the return on the dollar. So I'm going to fight that battle in Austin and continue to fight that. I see the language for preference to dish funding creeping up in a variety of bills. It takes a great deal of due diligence to watch that process, but we'll continue to do it on behalf of you all and behalf of the taxpayers.
I suspect that the majority of those legislators who are pushing dish first don't have transferring hospitals in their districts.
That's true. That is true. They don't. And there is, and it is a complicated issue. There's no question. I'm not suggesting in any way that ones would not be well briefed on this, but it's easy to get confusing when a variety of people come into your office and tell you different things on a confusing subject. So ours is to help educate. I am still of the belief that once educated, you'll quickly see from a legislative standpoint the value in doing what we're doing and the value of locally controlled dollars and the value of expedient use of tax dollars.
How many transferring hospitals are there?
That's what I was going to ask.
There are nine transferring hospitals in the state of Texas.
9 in the whole state, drawing down dish dollars for every other hospital in the state.
To give you some kind of idea, the 4 largest transferring hospitals, which would be Harris County, Bexar County, Tarrant County, and Dallas County, transfer monies for 87% of all the other facilities in the state of Texas. So we are a bulk of that money. And I understand that. My concern is there's got to be greater degrees of accountability. It's an unsustaining model, and the federal government has also said they're phasing out dish funding. So in the next 6 years, I don't even think you're going to see dish funding. So to continue to rely upon it is a unwise situation for anybody.
So in effect, for several years, we've been transferring dollars that have been flowing over the state.
Yes.
We're now getting a leverage of, we put up 82 cents, we get back $1, as opposed to the new programs where we put up 47 cents, it brings back $1, and it brings it back to programs where there's accountability and results that go as a result of this, and it stays within our area as opposed to being spread throughout. There is an effort to allow other counties who have previously not had monies to be able to transfer, to take the indigent dollars or the indigent dollars that they were spending within their budget, to qualify that as transfers, and to be able to ship it up and then to pull it back, which would help other providers within their counties. And part of the question in that regard is making sure that once they've sent their money up, that they're no longer responsible for paying providers within their community that may be providing care outside of the network that is receiving those monies back, or making that network responsible for working out a deal with the other providers within the community.
And I will say to the judge's point, we have a good relationship with both public and private hospitals in our region. It's worked quite well, and I think that we have responsive hospitals that want to create outcomes, and we've worked on a lot, including our work with public health and our work with MHMR. I think this region here, which includes our counties and 8 others, probably has the strongest MHMR working relationship that any I've seen in the areas, as well as public health. We're going to bring more dollars down for better causes and better outcomes by going this approach.
And quite honestly, I mean, we have been able to increase our transfer money as a result of being able to bring in MHMR and some of their dollars, and potentially the other 8 counties who do not have transferring hospitals at this point in time, they may be able to get some of their indigent. But, you know, bottom line is we've got our IGP funds are basically the taxes that we impose upon our citizens, and the only way to get more of them is either to find other ways to qualify dollars from outside to come in to be able to qualify as transfers, or to raise taxes, which I don't think any of us are of a mind to do. And that kind of moves us over to the other discussion that deals a little bit with service expansion.
Yes, and that service expansion is one that we advocate. I understand the position of elected officials that says you have a broke system and you don't want to put more money into a broke system, which would cost taxpayers more dollars. However, I think one needs to look at a variety of alternatives, because there is a large amount of money that could be used for health care and and to the benefit of local citizens that I think we should not just automatically close the door on. And the article that appears today by Bloomberg that was in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram advocates that very thing based on the opinions of 4 Chamber of Commerces throughout the state. It's my intention as management to ask the hospital district to vote for a resolution that would look at alternatives to service expansion and look at better forms of providing dollars that might be available at a local level. I also think that's important because everybody that I've heard in the legislature advocates more local control. We advocated a lot at school issues. The legislature does not want to be mandated by the federal government what to do, and we're advocating that we do that with dollars that are coming down as well.
With regards to your resolution, the one comment I would make, just speaking for myself, would be a lot of the debate seems to go around about the fact that, well, you're going to get this money, but then eventually this money may run out. And I would hope that there would be something in there that basically says we are going to avail ourselves and try to draw down whatever money we can draw down and provide the service for as long as that money is coming. We recognize that at the point in time that it ceases to be a priority at either the federal or the state level, that we cannot raise taxes or do anything which would continue to do that services beyond the resources that we currently have available.
Right. I agree, and ours would not be to position anybody into a corner or that. It would just be advocating the philosophy that I have, and that is when people show up at our front door, they're not political. They're patients. We don't have political debates. When somebody shows up in our emergency room, we provide care. And so we're where the rubber meets the road in all practical sense of the terms. So I'm not interested in saying who's right, who's wrong. I'm interested in saying I've got patients that are coming to our front door, and we better want to serve them in any way possible.
In terms of the expansion of Medicaid, it seems that we already have a model that potentially could work on the Medicaid expansion, and that's the whole 1115 waiver process. If you could take that and graft it over to the Medicaid expansion, then we might have something that would work.
I think so, and I think to the judge's point, and that's the op-ed piece that I wrote that appeared in 5 state newspapers and our Fort Worth Star-Telegram, which I'm pleased that they were kind enough to run it. But to your point and the judge's point, there is real solid ground that we can stand on. There is no interest of anybody forcing anybody into future tax increases. That's wrong, and that's not the right way to look and spend the money. And at the same time, you've got a model out there that works. You should be utilizing it.
Yeah, and I still remain somewhat confused about this, but as I understand it, and so help me make sure that I understand it correctly, the 1115 waiver and the dollars that we're transferring up, when those dollars come back, they're coming back primarily to hospital providers and specialty providers.
Yes, sir.
The dollars that we're talking about when we talk about service expansion and including a greater population under those benefits, those dollars are currently the matching part of the federal dollars are talking about all the federal dollars coming from the feds on that deal. But right. The state is actually sending some of that money up, and that primarily covers primary care physicians and the folks that are being seen, not so much in the hospital, but in the doctor's offices around our community, but also maybe showing up at your doorstep and being seen by JPS doctors. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of that match right now, or any funds that are going up to help draw down federal funds from that, is really coming out of the state.
Yes, sir.
So if we talked about transferring, if we talked about a situation where we started having to be part of that match over here, the only dollars that we have to put over here would be taking away from dollars that we have on the 1115 side.
You wouldn't be taking away from the 1115 side.
Okay, so where would the dollars come out of, where would the dollars come from if we were responsible for putting up that match?
Well, ours would be an intergovernmental transfer matching directly to the federal funds. it would work just like the 1115 waiver monies would, but you wouldn't be robbing Peter to pay Paul.
But I guess the question is we don't have those dollars now, or where are we spending those dollars now?
Why would we want to relieve the state of its responsibility to put up its at max 10% share of?
I don't think we don't.
I would use the state's dollars as the IGT.
I agree with that 100%, but what the state is, I don't know, but I think what the state is saying is the reason, well, under the expansion of benefits, the federal government, I believe, is saying that they want to pay 100% for at least the first 3 years.
Right.
After that, then that percentage goes down
to 90%.
Okay, so that means 10%'s got to come from someplace. If the state doesn't want to put that
Right.
up, then now we've got to come up with that 10% from someplace.
Well, and that's not a position you want to be in, and that's
right.
That's
what I'm saying.
Exactly, and I understand that point, and that's well taken. It is a responsibility for all of us, particularly those that are trying to figure out how to make this work, and there's a responsibility at the state level as well. And I understand their financial concerns. We all have them. You have them. I'm just a firm believer that it doesn't just trickle down to make sure that you all are responsible for everything that has to be funded. Everybody should play a role. And my attitude is we at the local level are playing our role. The federal government is playing its role. And the state should play its role. It should be equitable and adequate
Absolutely.
to deal with our patient base. Nobody has the ability to turn their head on this issue.
Thanks.
So I appreciate it. I'm going to take Jack to lunch now. So thank y'all.
He's out looking at his electronic file.
Oh, good. He didn't hear me, so I'm not taking him to lunch.
He's probably listening in his office. He'll meet you at the elevator.
Maybe we lost an opportunity.
Yeah. I think actually his wife may be getting. No, I don't. That's later on this week.
Members of the Court, we have one other item. That's the legislative issues. Mr. Mendez has included in your packet his memo for the week. I'll be more than happy to try to answer any questions that you might have on those items. If not, Your Honor, that's all we have at this time.
And we'll now recess from open session and proceed to close to discuss items exempted under 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code. That's it, Bill. Now address the following matters.
Under the district attorney's office, it is possible to take one vote with regard to the 4 items on the agenda if a motion is made in that format and there is no objection by more than one commissioner, and I believe we have the motion in that form at the current time.
I move that the Tarrant County Commissioners Court authorize the use of the power of eminent domain to acquire the following 4 tracts of land for use in a public project known as the laying out and construction of U.S. Highway 377 from Winscott Lakeway to Interstate Highway 20 in Benbrook, Texas, and authorize the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office to initiate condemnation proceedings to acquire these 4 tracts of land. 0.0356 acres, 1/6 of an acre, or 1,551 square feet of land, more or less, situated in the John Stevens Survey, Abstract 1494, being a part of Lot 3, Block 1 of 377 Square Addition, an addition to the City of Benbrook, as recorded in Volume 388, 161, page 31 of the plat records of Tarrant County, Texas. 0.0198 of an acre, or 863 square feet of land, more or less, situated in the J.M. Evans Survey, abstract number 466, being a part of Lot 1R, Block 1 of the Ruth Art addition, an addition to the city of Benbrook, as recorded in Cabinet B, slide 1501 of the plat records of Tarrant County, Texas. Also, 0.0752 of an acre, or 3,277 square feet of land, more or less, situated in the J.M. Evans Survey, abstract number 466, being a part of Lot 1, Block 45 of Benbrook Lakeside Addition, an addition to the city of Benbrook, as recorded in volume 388-P, page 48 of the plat records of Tarrant County, Texas. And finally, 0.0097 of an acre, or 423 square feet of land, more or less, situated in the J.M. Evans Survey, abstract number 466, being a part of Lot 6, Block 47, Benbrook Lakeside Addition, an addition to the city of Benbrook as recorded in volume 388-157, page 28 of the plat records of Tarrant County, Texas.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
There being no further business, we're adjourned.
I was going to ask you to repeat all that again because I didn't follow very closely.
There you go. Follow all you want.